Welcome to Get Organized at Work. I'm your host, Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, healthcare leader, mom of three, and your go-to guide for ditching the chaos and taking control of your workday. This is the show where we turn overwhelming to-do lists into clear, actionable plans so you can crush your goals and show up as your best self at work and in your life. Whether you're here for strategies to stay ahead or systems to simplify your workday, you're in the right place. Let's get organized, have some fun, and make this year your best year in your career yet. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to Get Organized at Work podcast. I'm Kayla, I'm your host, and today we're going to be continuing our series on consistency systems. We're going to be talking about the 80-20 rule of work systems and what actually matters most. Last week, we talked about the hidden costs of being inconsistent at work. It was a really popular episode. So if you haven't listened to that one, I would definitely go back after you listen to this episode and check it out. This week for our podcast recognition, I want to recognize Stacy. She's one of our new members in our community, and she joined the private podcast section of our community app, which is really cool. If you haven't heard about it, I just started mentioning it. So we have a free Get Organized at Work podcast community app. It's pretty awesome. I'll link it for you in the description or in the show notes for you. You can check it out. You get exclusive updates for when these episodes drop. You get notified when I post new YouTube videos or tutorials. My free resource library with all my downloadable templates, anything I've already made or anything that's new goes right in there. And we have a community wall where we can talk to each other, get feedback, network with other professionals. And then the newest piece is there is a private podcast in there. So it's a little bit extra if you want to commit to getting a little bit more from me. Those podcast episodes aren't as highly produced. It's sometimes me on the go, me when I'm thinking about things before I leave work or right when I'm heading to work. And yeah, they're just kind of interesting things that tie into pop culture that make me think of leadership and being organized. So I hope you'll check that out. So thanks to Stacy for joining. A few other people that joined the free podcast community this week were Haley, Kimiko, and Leslie, and Lux since the last podcast episode. So anyways, thanks for being here. I think I'll start sharing some first names because I think it's kind of fun to highlight the people that have joined. We are up to 79 members in our community, which is so cool. The goal for the year was 50. We're blown by and we're having fun. So I hope you will check it out. All right. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. And then at the end, I do have a little bit of a sneak peek message about merch. And I thought I'll save that for the end in case you're not interested in merch, but it's coming and I'm super excited. So today we're talking about the 80-20 rule of work systems. And here's the truth, and you probably already know it. You don't need to organize everything. You only need to organize the right 20% that drives 80% of your results. So I know in a past episode, I talked about how you don't have to organize your email. Controversial topic. As someone who doesn't strive for inbox zero, but read all, I wanted to share how you don't have to organize the heck out of everything to be an organized person and to be successful and to drive your work forward. So we're going to talk about systems that stick. I'm going to share some stories about how I simplified my organization and how I've helped others do the same thing and how they and myself have worked to avoid busy work disguised as organizing. So let's get into it. All right, just to kick off this part of the episode, I wanted to share the 80-20 rule. You've probably heard it. And why does it matter? And people will talk about the 80-20 rule or they'll call it Pareto's principle. They're the same thing. And just in general, what it means is 20% of your effort drives 80% of your results. And so if we want to think about how do we apply this to organization, it only takes a few systems that work together that will actually matter long term. You don't need a bunch of systems, or you don't need to use a bunch of different apps, a bunch of different notebooks to be successful. And an example of this is a leader with, let's say, a perfectly color-coded filing system for something in their inbox. But if they're missing follow-ups on projects from those emails, that system might be beautiful, but it's useless. So it's not part of the 20% effort that's driving 80% results. It's part of the 80% effort that's not really driving any results. So I hope that makes sense. I don't like to use like the KISS method or keep it simple, stupid, but honestly, simplify, simplify, simplify will help you be more organized and more streamlined in your systems. And that's what helps them stick. So less is more here. All right. In this part of the episode, now I want to dive into 3 systems that I think are imperative for you to have to get yourself organized and to help you drive 80% of those results. You can have other systems, you can have like subsets of those systems, whatever you want to do. But remember, 20% of what you're doing is actually going to drive 80% of your results. So let me tell them to you right now. Then we're going to go through each of them. Number 1, you need a calendar, which to me is your time management system. Number 2, you need a task or project hub, a single source of truth. And number 3, you need some sort of meeting rhythm or way to communicate consistently. All 3 of these to me are a backbone and are going to help you elevate your leadership, elevate your professionalism in your career. Everything else is a bonus. So the 3 systems that actually stick that you need are a calendar or time management system, a task hub or a single source of truth, and a meeting rhythm or some way to communicate consistently. So let's break those down. Number 1, calendar or time management system. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't happen, right? The other thing, I told the story before. I used to think my mom was nuts when we were kids because she kept this giant desk calendar in our kitchen. And I was like, Mom, this is so annoying. Like, we know about this thing on Monday. She's like, yeah, but if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen. Mind you, she has 3 kids, just like I do. And now I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm not going to tease you for that. Same thing with at work, with your career. If you don't have any time scheduled to work on it, then you're just basically on a hope strategy instead of a tangible strategy for this is when I get stuff done. It's like, I hope I get that stuff done. Not confident that you're going to drive 80% of your results based on a hope strategy. So there's a few tricks you can do. One of the things I like to do is when I think about my goals for the year, the things that I'm going to be evaluated for my performance appraisal, those are my strategic goals. And those go on the calendar first. And I call them my focus blocks or my strategic blocks. I do like to color code those so I know what it is without really just at a quick glance. You don't have to. The color coding is extra. The block on the calendar is necessary. The other cool thing is, especially if you use Outlook for your work, Outlook can book focus blocks for you when you have time. Then that way you can make them recurring and then they're just there. You can move them around. So what I want to share with you is, in my experience, when I have scheduled proactive focus blocks, I finish my work ahead of deadlines compared to when time would just magically disappear when I didn't have proactive time blocks on the calendar. So for everything you do, I want you to schedule it on your calendar. You might say it's overkill, but guess what? Now you're going to be able to see whether or not you have enough time for this. You're going to be able to be proactive to say, I can't go to this meeting. I'd like to work on this, or say, oh, that thing isn't as important as this, or can move something from one day to the next. But you need a way to see how much time you actually have, how much time you spent, and how much time you have left over. So if it's not on the calendar, it didn't happen. All right. The second system you need is a task hub or a single source of truth. So if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I talk about OneNote. I talk about Teams Planner app. I talk about Asana. I've mentioned Trello. What I want you to do, if we're working on consistency in this series, is just pick one. Just pick one. And I know that it's super hard for us because if you're listening to this, you probably love organizing. You probably love trying out new tech. Maybe, most people I think do think, we jump to the shiny object. We're like, oh, this is cool. It's cute. For your work, it can be boring. And if you need it to be colorful or fun, pick the one that makes you most excited to use it. That's how you're going to be able to drive 80% of your results. For me, I do keep a running task list in OneNote. Then I migrate all of those tasks into projects or just like to-dos inside of Planner. So my OneNote is kind of like my
digital notes or like a notebook. It's just a dumping ground. It's not organized, super pretty. It has different hierarchical structure, but if you were to go into it, it's not something like glamorous. But my planner is super glamorous. It for me, it keeps me excited. It gives me that dopamine hit, but it's also highly, highly functional. So I'd say my OneNote does help me drive 80% of those results, but it's not, I would say, like the main source of truth. The main source of truth for me are my planner, Kanban boards, project lists, etc. So just pick one. So for me, when I reflect on my leadership and career and other leaders that I've worked with as well, they'll be juggling sticky notes or spreadsheets or like flagging their emails, hoping they get to those. They've got their tasks and their projects in like multiple different spots. They've got notebooks, like it's just all over the place. And I know this feeling, like I've felt it. I've showed on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram and everything, picture of me at my desk, like kind of catching up, which was my normal thing to do every month or so, with sticky notes all over my wall. And I think back to that and I'm like, wow, I would just have to go through all of those and then get them into a digital space. And I would do that over and over and over. And so the system just wasn't sustainable until I created something different. Once I consolidated into Planner, my team was able to trust me and knew where to look without having to bombard me, right? So it was not only a one source of truth for myself, but for my team, and then allowed less questions to come my way because they knew where to find the information and they trusted that I had it. So whether it's OneNote, Planner, whatever, Asana, Trello, pick one if you're struggling with consistency right now and commit to using it, I would say, for at least 3 months. I think it takes a little bit to get used to it, but then after you've been using it for a while, I would say a quarter of the year is a really good time frame to know, okay, I'm getting this into a well-oiled machine. I'm figuring out how to use it efficiently, and I can drive 80% of my results with 20% of the effort using this, task hub. And the third system that helps you actually make it all stick would be your meeting rhythm or your communication plan. When people think about what I love to focus on, I would say at work, a lot of folks will say, like, I know that you care a lot about making sure that things are communicated properly. And I really believe in helping people understand the why, the benefit of promise for why things are happening, and helping lead people. I mean, next to them instead of out in front saying like, come follow, but it's like, let me bring you with me with my communication. And so one way to do that is to have consistent meeting rhythms or cadences for your team. So if you're a leader, thinking about, is there a daily huddle that you can have? Is there a monthly review? Maybe you need something weekly. But again, for me, I don't want to bombard my team with meetings. I want to allow them to do their work. I usually have weekly one-on-ones, so I feel like that takes the place of like a total group weekly meeting, but a monthly catch up with the team for various topics. We have that. We have daily huddles. So just something that your team can rely on. If you are a professional and you are not a leader of leaders or have a frontline team, maybe you want to think about, if you feel like you're missing meetings with your team, like your boss isn't hosting those, you can say, hey, like, I feel like I'm missing out on the clarity of the direction for where we're going. And I need more help prioritizing my tasks or how my work fits into the bigger picture of your work or my team's work. And you can ask for these types of meetings, or you can say, hey, I would love to host a meeting or with you or with the team. And they can see it as you taking initiative and you wanting to learn a skill of hosting meetings and planning and helping prioritize. And that will help you with your career acceleration, show that you really care, and potentially even earn you some points for promotion. So when we switch from ad hoc updates or updates that feel like pulling information from our team members, pulling information from our leaders, we can be so much more efficient because issues, instead of being pulled and being reactive, are pushed to you and come to the surface early. And I feel like it reduces the stress on the team because they know we're always going to have these meetings. There's always time on my boss's calendar for me. And these really are things that I can count on. You also want to think about like what is most important to communicate. And we can dive into communication deeper on other episodes, but thinking about like status of your projects, things with deadlines, risks you see to the organization or on your team, things that are going well, things to celebrate, pointing out the value you bring to the org and some of the things that were successful this week. So think about, how can I help drive my results, help my leader help me by sharing early and often what I'm doing, or at least having time to get information to make sure you're doing the right thing. So again, the 3 systems you must have are 1, calendar, which is your time management system; 2, a task hub, which is your single source of truth; and 3, a meeting rhythm or some sort of communication consistency. All right, so in this next segment of the episode, I want to talk about how leaders simplify instead of over-organizing. And again, I know that we love the shiny object and we love to make extensive organizational systems, right? Like, who doesn't love multiple layers to fit everything into its specific box? But here's the deal. Simple systems help you scale efficiently. And again, it's 20% effort for 80% results. You don't need to organize 80 or 100% of your stuff. Keep it organized at a basic level, something that's sustainable. So here's a couple examples. Maybe your OneNote notebook is just 3 tabs: projects, people, reference. Maybe your planner board is only 3 buckets: to do, doing, done. I know some of you have seen my Kanban boards and know that like they're way more than 3 buckets, because I've refined it over the years and I know it works well in my brain. But as we're striving for consistency, if it's something you're struggling with, don't over organize. Keep it super basic. If you've got 1 too many tabs, consider, deleting 1 and just going with 3. 3 usually is a good number. I feel like it was like the Coco Chanel quote, which was something about like, just take 1 piece of jewelry off if you feel like you've got too much on. I don't know. I could totally be misquoting that, but it's the idea that you might think that you are like not too over organized. And I would say pare it back 1 more than you've organized, 1 more layer, and that's probably good. Just kind of wanted to contrast something here. Somebody who spends hours color coding tasks or creating 15 categories in a task app, but never actually moves the work forward, isn't actually getting any work done. It's just being busy organizing. And that's sort of the 4th segment of this episode I wanted to share with you. As you're simplifying and creating systems, how do you know if you're over organizing or you're sort of in fake productivity mode? And I believe that you're in this fake productivity mode if you're constantly tweaking your system. Now, I'm not saying I haven't done this, right? Like, we're all guilty of tweaking our system all the time because it's fun to do when it's not as fun to do the work. But do you need to tweak it? Ask yourself, like, am I just doing this to do it, or is my system broken? Maybe you're spending more time setting things up than actually executing on your thing. That would be fake productivity. Maybe you're needing everything to be perfect before you start. To me, that would also be fake productivity. So here's what I want you to do. Some fixes you can do would be limit your system setup time to 30 minutes. So give yourself sort of a deadline of like, okay, I'm only going to do it for this long. You can set a timer if you need to, but don't spend a whole day setting up your systems. Spend 30 minutes getting them set up, and then the rest of your day actually executing. You can use templates instead of reinventing the wheel. So, for example, you might be really tempted to make your own one-on-one meeting template, put it in OneNote in your new section that you've created for people. You don't need to. You can download my free template by joining my free community, which is linked. You can also use the templates that are already listed in OneNote. They already have some meeting note templates. Keep it super basic. Don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel. And I would also suggest reviewing your weekly routine instead of review your routine weekly. instead of doing like these ad hoc reorganizations of your system. So you might be tempted to be like, oh, I'm just going to like tweak it right now. But instead, maybe say, no, I'm just going to, if I have something I really feel like I need to tweak, maybe just make a note of it somewhere and then do a weekly reflection of like, how did my system work for me this week? And then decide, did I really need to tweak or is it good enough? So instead of fake productivity, for example, like sorting all of your emails into a new system and everything goes into Planner, maybe just set a rule to only organize the emails you actually have to act on, not necessarily every single one that you get. All right. So to kind of recap, we want to focus on the vital 20%, our calendar, our task hub, and our meeting, our communication rhythm. So this week, I want you to audit your systems. Think about which ones are truly driving 80% of your results and which ones are just causing you to busy work. And so what I would love for you to do is join my free Get Organized at Work community. And in there, you can download my free templates so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you are feeling up to it and you would like to have more lessons on setting up systems, I would love for you to, like I said, join the free community. And then inside of that, you can get member pricing, which is 75% off, or not 75% off, $75 off my course. It's called Get Organized at Work Blueprint. And in there, it is almost 4 hours. I think I tallied it for someone. It was like 3 hours and 41 minutes of instruction from me, video lessons with presentations, and you can see me teaching. And there are 6 modules broken into small videos ranging from like 5 to 7 minutes, all the way up to like 20 something minutes to make it digestible. And I talk about organizing your thinking, sort of the proactive success mindset. I also talk about how to organize your daily work and create leader standard work systems. This is your calendar management. This is your task management that we talked about in that first time management system. So I talk about how to figure out what are your leadership habits, how to put them on the calendar, and how to track whether or not you're doing them. The third lesson is organizing and prioritizing your projects. This is where I show you how to create a project roadmap, that single source of truth using Kanban boards, and how to really define out where you're going for the year, but then also make it easy for you and for others to see where you're at, what needs to be done, etc. This is amazing. The next lesson is bonus, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't refer to it that way, but if you're a leader of leaders or frontline team members, or even if you are a professional that doesn't have direct reports, delegating is really important in knowing how to determine who can do this type of work, what type of work should be delegated, and then how to delegate with templating your work. These are awesome skills to have and show that you're ready for career acceleration. So I have a whole module on how to delegate effectively and focus on the right work so that you can drive your results, others can drive their results or other results for you as a leader. And then the next module is developing your leadership presence. We talk about creating your work brand, your personal work brand. I know they sound contradicting, but personal and work often collide. And so what's your personality type? How do you develop an awareness of your default presence at work? How do you create and cultivate your hallway brand? And how do you show up daily with that presence? And then the last module is how to communicate proactively, creating your clear communication strategy. So I talk about why proactive communication boosts your career growth and advancement, some key elements of communication that you must include, how to learn to anticipate and communicate early and often. And I share communication tools and templates for very specific scenarios that you can take and use all on your own, as well as I give you the tools to create your own proactive communication strategy and toolkit. So I just feel like on this episode, we skimmed the surface of those 3 systems that stick. And I go in depth in my course, the Get Organized at Work Blueprint, to help you lay that foundation. I get asked this. I wouldn't say it's a beginner course because none of you are just at the beginning, right? Like many of you are well into your careers, have been leading, have been a professional for a while, but you're still trying to figure out how to get organized. So I would say it's the foundation of getting organized. It's going to, once you do these things, it's like you're going to see exponential productivity without burning out. So it's like doing 20% of that work that's going to get you 80% of your results. I will swear, because these are all the systems that I've done to help myself get promoted, be organized, feel confident in work, and make myself feel like I can do whatever, that I'm ready for my next move. So join the community, get $75 off of the course. It's there, it's ready, it's waiting for you. There is a course feed where you can talk to other members, and there's a course chat. You can talk to me, you get extra access to me. So it's pretty cool. So if you are like, okay, this is the season where I get organized before the end of the year, I'm going to rock my Q4 results, this would be a great option for you. All right, next week, we're going to be talking about building rhythms that you can stick to even on your worst days. And last note, I promised to talk about merch. So I'm super pumped. Thank you for your feedback on which merch you would like to see. I will still put the merch link in the description so you can, still vote on your favorite ones. But I ordered some samples this week. So there are going to be some notebooks, some tumblers, some coffee mugs, and some tearaway notepad papers. I'm so pumped. But I want to make sure that the quality is good before I have, sell it to you or offer it to you. So those should be in within the next week or two. And I'll be able to share those on my Instagram, maybe on my YouTube channel, and share them with you too. Take some real life pictures, and then we'll open some pre-orders. So, all right. Thanks for all of that administrative detail at the end, but I really appreciate you still listening to the end to end. And until next time, I will see you. Good luck with your week. Good luck setting up your systems, and let me know if this episode was helpful. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.